You're listening to the Paranormal Peeps on the Darkcast Network. Come to the dark side of indie podcasts with the Darkcast Network.
We have cookies. Between the realm of the dead and the journeys of the living, join Josh, Jamie, and Elisa as they delve into the vast world of the paranormal and breathe life back into the history of the departed.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Paranormal Peeps podcast. I'm Josh.
I'm Jamie.
And Elisa.
Well, she's currently on a camping expedition where they're searching for Bigfoot.
See, I thought she found Bigfoot and was giving Bigfoot a mani-pedi.
Not yet, no. That's why she's looking. She's got all of her supplies with her to do his nails. Or its nails.
Could you imagine how nasty those nails would be?
I mean, I think they'd probably be cleaner than some people.
That's true and gross.
And scary.
And scary all in the same stroke.
Yep.
Oh, boy. So, our topic today is going to be on probably a place that most people have heard of before, but not for what we're going to talk about.
Do tell.
So, we're going to talk about Normandy, France.
Okay.
Which most people know as the site of the D-Day invasion.
Yeah.
But we are not going to talk D-Day today.
What are we going to talk?
A haunted chateau.
Okay. Sounds great. I can't wait.
I'm going to apologize right now. I am not very good at speaking French. So I am going to butcher these names. So the hauntings at the Chateau de Noyers started just a few decades after it was built in 1835. And it was built from stones that were from an earlier medieval castle. So they just reclaimed and repurposed old castle stones.
Oh, cool. I'd like to have a house built out of old castle stones.
Right? Do you think we could buy a castle in Europe and then deconstruct it and then build it something else?
I mean, yeah, if you're like a millionaire or a billionaire, sure.
Well, there are some castles that are like for sale for like $1,000.
Yeah, but that's just the sell price. They're in ruins.
Yeah.
But then deconstructing what's left and shipping it and then having it rebuilt here?
Probably just might be easier to just rebuild it on the property.
Probably.
So everything we know about the hauntings are actually from M.J. Maurice, as he describes the events that happened from 1892 and 1893. And he wrote it in a book called The Annals de Science Physiques. So he actually wrote it in a science book of all the hauntings that happened to him.
In a science book, huh?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Well, that's the thing I find fascinating about the European culture versus the American culture.
Mm-hmm.
They take the paranormal and they actually have college degrees that you can get in paranormal research.
Which is pretty cool. But I swore I heard about something like that here in the States, too. Probably much more recent of an offering than it is over in Europe and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I actually looked for it just because I'm weird that way at times. And
just because you want to know.
Just because I want to know. And the only thing I found was offered from Cambridge University in Great Britain.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe not then.
But what a prestigious degree from Cambridge.
No kidding.
And it's an online degree, by the way.
Ooh, hey, sign me up.
Right. So in October of 1867, the de Manville family inherited the chateau. Here, the sensible and well-to-do M. D. Manville lived with their son, Maurice, and his tutor, Abby Y. Emile the coachman, Auguste the gardener, and Celina the cook, and Emile the maid. It was not always a comfortable existence for the first 3 years. There were odd noises, doors slamming for no reason, inexplicably moved objects were all just kind of bothering them because they would just kind of happen often.
After a while, though, you become pretty, I think, desensitized to those things.
I think so.
Most people. I mean, I think there's the exception of a handful that might just terrify them, the fact that it even happens.
Yeah.
No matter how much time they spend there.
But, we saw that too, though, when we were talking about the Borley Rectory, too. The Bull family, when they were living there, they just got used to it.
Yeah. You get desensitized. You just become used to it. It just is a part of your home life.
Right. The crazy thing is it all stopped in 1870 for no reason. Just full stop.
That's weird.
It is weird. But it started again in October of 1875.
So it stopped for 5 years about?
They got a 5-year gap, and then it just came back. So the unexpected noises were back, and for no discernible reason, they began to escalate. Severely unnerved, M. de Manville began to make a daily record of the disturbances experienced by his family. Their friends, servants, and the clergy he soon brought in to help them with what was clearly a supernatural problem.
Right.
What started as the odd bang in a far-off room, a misheard shout in the distance, moved closer, became louder and more frequent. Then, whatever it was, it became vindictive. So it went from peaceful and calm to angry.
So basically it went from like moving things here and there.
Some noises.
Some bumps and noises. Very minor.
Yeah.
And then it disappears.
For 5 years.
For about 5 years. And then it comes back and it basically ups its game.
Yeah.
So this makes me think it's something entirely different than what was maybe there before, or something new has come in.
See, that's what I thought too, is that at first it was something simple and maybe something attached to the land type of deal. And then whatever else came in was definitely a new spirit.
Interesting.
So during the evening of the 13th of October, the tutor asked to speak with M. de Manville. Pale and shaking, he explained he had seen a chair in his room move on its own accord. Unimpressed, M. de Manville had a look at the tutor's room, stuck the chair in the position with some gum paper, and told him to let him know if anything further occurred. Later that night, M. de Manville was awoken by a bell the tutor kept by his bed. Hurrying to the man's room, he discovered the young tutor terrified in his bed, the covers pulled up around him. The chair was in a completely different part of the room, and candlesticks and ornaments had been knocked over. The young tutor whispered that he had been woken by sharp rapping on the walls. As he spoke, loud thumps echoed around the chateau from every corner. Quickly arming his servants, M. de Manville searched every room. They found nothing, and slowly the sounds seemed to move further away. From that night, it was as though something unspeakable had been awoken that would not sleep. Night after night, the household was terrorized and exhausted by the sound of a fist banging on the doors and knocking on the windows. A huge object could be heard, but not seen, rolling down the stairs.
Weird.
I know.
That would be a bit alarming.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of alarming.
Especially when you're watching the stairs and you hear it, but you don't see it.
Yeah, something banging loud down the stairs.
I wonder if they felt it too.
Oh.
Because, I mean, okay, hearing it's one thing, but do you hear it and did you feel it as it thumped down the stairs?
That would be even more terrifying.
Well, it would, but I'm just curious. Does it say?
It didn't say.
Doesn't say.
So they implored the parish priest to visit and stay for a night. His sleep was broken in the early hours by heavy footsteps of what must have been a giant of a man, stomping down the staircase. The priest told the family he believed strongly that something supernatural was the cause and left quickly after breakfast.
I don't even think I would have stayed that long.
Right.
No, I'm kidding. I probably would have stayed for another week.
You've been listening there. Do it again. Do it again.
Can you do it again?
Can you do it louder?
Show yourself.
For Halloween, The wails, shouts, and thumping noises were truly terrifying, keeping the household awake and petrified until 3 in the morning. Its activity seemed to start with loud knocking in what was known as the green room.
Why do rooms always have color labels? Blue room, green room, red room.
Because that's usually the color of the carpet.
The carpet or the walls.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's just, I don't know.
Well, I mean, so a chateau is a mansion. And so they got like 30 rooms. So, I mean, you can't just call it the living room or the dining room because...
Okay, that's fair. But in modern days, say like you have a big house. Well, a standard house could be like 5 or 6 rooms these days.
Yeah.
Depending where you live. What if they all have white walls and tan carpet?
Then it's brown room 1, brown room 2, brown room 3.
Stay out of brown room number 2.
Pile on the floor. I mean, wait.
It's a real mess.
It was during a terrible November storm that the screaming started. For a fraction of a second, the noise could have been high winds through the trees that surrounded the chateau, but then they became louder and louder until outside the voice of a distressed woman was heard, desperately calling for help. The next day, the voice was inside the chateau. Plaintive calls for help, horrible shrieks, and sorrowful whimpering chilled listeners, but no woman could be found. The following night, they were awoken by wretched sobbing in the locked green room. They did not investigate as the cries of a woman suffering terribly became louder and more shrill.
Oh, that's sad.
It is sad.
That's well, I mean, it's unnerving, of course, but, because there's no physical woman that they can find or see.
And the room was locked.
And the room's locked. And the fact that it moved from outside and then inside is unnerving too. But at the same time, I mean, it gives me the sense of like, I want to help, but I don't know. That's a tough spot.
Yeah.
It really is. But it's sad. It makes you think, is this an intelligent? I'm thinking it's got to be intelligent if it moved from the outside to the inside.
Yeah, I would think so.
I don't think that would necessarily be residual, do you?
I mean,
could it be?
Potentially, if there was something like somebody was kidnapped and brought from outside to the inside and
locked in that room.
So then that could be the residual path.
And that's the
movement.
pattern that it takes.
Right.
Huh. Well, I suppose it could, but for me, I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't seem that way, though.
It does not seem residual to me.
No.
Even just listening to it.
Especially after this next part.
Okay, let's go.
So the tutor was frequently the subject of quiet horrors. In his locked room, objects would be rearranged, shoes laid out in odd patterns, candlesticks balanced on top of each other, a chair found on top of the table, windows nailed shut, blew open. One day he came back to find every book thrown from his shelves to the floor, except the Holy Scriptures. Interesting. Right?
So, one of two things. Are we dealing with something that's evil? Because it won't touch the Holy Scriptures? Or are we dealing with something that's not evil, but only has respect for the Holy Scriptures and thinks that all of his other books of like study and subject are blasphemy and threw them all on the floor?
That's a good question. It could be either one, right?
It could be either one. Yeah.
So you got kind of at sixes at that point.
Yeah.
So on January 17th at 11 p.m., people were woken by what sounded like a body falling in the first floor corridor, followed by a heavy ball that rolls along the corridor to strike loudly on the door of the green room. 20 sharp rapping sounds, then 18 coming from inside the green room. At 11:35, 5 blows on the door of the green room. 15 loud thumping noises going up the stairs to the second floor. 2 gunshots. Footless legs walked 10 paces up the stairs to the second floor as the building seems to shake. At 15 minutes past midnight, 8 strong blows on the first floor landing. 3 on the 2nd.
You know, listening to that sequence of bangs and sounds, so I'm taking it that they've obviously counted.
Somebody obviously
had to count 20 here, 18 there, all
15.
Yeah, all the things. It almost sounds, the sequence of it almost sounds like somebody was like going through the house, like murdering people.
Right? Well, you got to remember, this is the part that's interesting, right? The bricks that were used for the chateau were from an old castle.
Yeah.
So are we getting a residual event that happened, like the storming of a castle or something along those lines, that is just played out?
Yeah, but surely this home, this place that was built with these bricks from this old castle, I mean, the layout's not the same.
No, but it's the energy stored in the stone.
Of course, but would it follow the path of the current house, or would it follow the path of the castle that the bricks had come from originally?
Good question. I don't know. I would assume that it would be the path of the new home, but I don't know.
Because, I mean, you hear of these places where it's like, oh, yeah, this old home, it was such and such, and then it was abandoned, and then we bought it, and we renovated it, and then they report seeing things like, well, this apparition just went through this wall, but in the original blueprint of the home, before they remodeled it, there was like a door there.
Right.
Or we built over the top of this other floor or whatever, and we've seen apparition. It looked like it had no feet, like it was standing lower than what the floor actually is. Well, yeah, because that was the old floor.
Right. Yeah, and we've heard those stories before.
Right.
We've also heard stories of where someone has used a reclaimed door.
Yes.
And the door had hauntings associated to it, openings and closing and knockings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, did they reclaim more than just the stone?
Well, I mean, I don't know what else would really be there. Wouldn't they have said that they took more than the stone? I mean, what was left?
Probably just stone.
Exactly.
Probably no wood.
Probably not.
So.
Hard to say. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, although it still seems more intelligent than residual.
Well,
like some of it might be residual, but
I mean, you could have both, right? You could have some residual things that just play out, and those are the things that are like on this repeat. So they'll occur, in like this pattern, and some happen every night at a certain time. Those are, or every week at a certain time on a certain day or whatever. Those are the ones that I would kind of chalk up to more residual.
Yeah.
But some of the other ones sound like they definitely have intelligence behind them.
Yeah.
Especially the one that's going into the tutors.
And moving stuff.
And stacking candles and throwing all the books off except for the Holy Scriptures.
Yeah, that's
definitely not a residual type haunting.
No, definitely not. So they said many nights something seemed to tour the castle, knocking a few times on every door, always more on the door of the tutor, as if asking for admittance before thumping sounds were heard in the green room. Just one person was hurt by the poltergeist. Madame de Manville was unlocking a door when the key was ripped from and used to strike the back of her hand, leaving a huge bruise. Okay,
so one person had it physically, so that's definitely intelligent.
Yeah, the lady of the house.
The lady of the house had it. Pull the key out of her hand and smack her on the back of the hand with it.
And
leaves a bruise.
Yeah.
Yeah, because keys back then were quite large.
They
and
were.
Solid.
Yeah. Those skeleton keys were huge.
Yeah. Some of them could be.
So the priest reported to the bishop, who sent a canon whose enhanced spiritual presence seemed to calm the poltergeist activity for a while. Then, after a few days of peace, it started up again, worse than before. Something unseen forced its way into the rooms of Auguste and Emile, and threw around their belongings and overturned their beds. All the books and papers of Mr. de Manville, his study, were thrown in a heap on the floor. Sinister nighttime screams were joined by the growl of animals and the bellow of a bull. Pulse-like tapping was regularly heard moving along the corridors towards the room of Maurice, the son of the house. It only stopped when something hit his door so hard every window in the chateau shook.
It's like a bomb going off.
Right?
Rattles all the windows.
At once.
At once, yeah.
I mean, that's like
Yeah,
it's like a bomb going off.
Yeah.
Because like, you would need a huge force to shake every window in the house.
It definitely sounds like this is more of a demonic nature.
Yes.
For sure. I mean, if you got growling and
The bellowing
yeah.
of a bull.
Yeah, that doesn't...
Yeah.
No bueno.
The priest agreed to conduct the rites of exorcism. He also arranged for a novena of masses to be said at Lourdes at the same time. Late afternoon on January 26, 1876, the parish priest arrived at the chateau. His arrival was heralded by a terrible, unearthly scream and the sound of stampeding animals. A noise like heavy furniture being roughly moved was followed by the door to Maurice's room shaking as if something vile demanded to get in. As the exorcism reached its peak at 11:15 p.m., they heard the agonized roar of an animal slowly killed. Furious thumps and knocking sounds were heard from the green room as a man's voice seemed to be shouting up on the first floor landing, and then nothing.
Did they say that they could understand what the man was shouting?
Just shouting.
Just shouting.
Exhausted, the priest slumped in a chair as the family and their servants cautiously explored the house. Apart from an unknown earthenware plate found broken on the floor by Madame de Manville, by her room, they found nothing strange.
So it's like a battle was happening.
It's kind of what an exorcism is.
Yeah, it's like a battle, right?
Yeah, it's a fight.
That's definitely what that sounds like.
So for a few days, all was quiet until one evening, as Madame de Manville sat writing at her desk, from nowhere, handfuls of holy medals and crosses fell onto her papers.
Weird.
Right? This was followed by some months of quiet. Then, sometime in August, to everyone's distress, but distinct tapping sounds began to sound in odd corners of the chateau.
So it was like it's almost like starting again.
Yep.
Starting on the lower side.
Yeah.
With the tapping. And then the knocking.
Yeah. In September, the drawing room furniture was rearranged in a horseshoe shape. Soon afterwards, when Mr. de Manville was away on business, Madame de Manville saw with growing dread the bolt on her bedroom door move back of its own accord.
Yeah, that'd be a little frightening.
Right? That's straight horror movie right there.
Yep. Well, actually, a lot of this is.
Yeah. But this time, the haunting was different. An organ played itself, and the furniture in the room of Maurice's new tutor appeared to move for a family who had experienced the terrors of the previous winter. It was unpleasant rather than frightening. After a few weeks, the phenomenon just seemed to drift away until, at last, the house was mostly peaceful. But
there's always a but.
The family de Manville did move out.
Oh, well, I'm surprised it took them that long.
Yeah, that's like 3 years of terror.
Yeah. I mean, those weren't just little incidents.
No.
I'm sorry, but if something like that was going, even in the field that we're in and what we do, if I was experiencing that in my home and nothing we tried could really get rid of it, but only calm it for a little while before it would just start up again, I would move. I wouldn't wait.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder if it wasn't like, was it truly, could it have been from the bricks from the castle? Or is it something that was attached to one of them?
Or the property?
I mean, there's so many.
Well, and that's the thing. So, like, I think the first and last hauntings, I think those were probably associated to the castle itself, right?
Sure.
Because those did not seem to be demonic or evil.
No, but then you get the animal growls and...
Yeah, that middle section where they end up having to do an exorcism.
Yeah.
That definitely has the realm of a negative haunting or an evil haunting.
Yeah.
Now, this should sound familiar to you. An unexplained fire in 1984 devastated the building, leaving just a room decorated in green, untouched.
I was going to say it's the green room, isn't it?
Yep.
Yep.
So it's still private property to this day.
Yeah.
But the grounds are open for visitors and occasional town parties.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, the home was pretty much gutted except for the green room.
Yeah. Well, did they end up tearing down the green room as well?
No, it's as is.
Oh, they just left it as is?
Yeah.
Wow.
So you can go to Normandy, France.
Heck yeah.
And go to the Chateau and check it out.
That'd be so cool.
I mean, Normandy is on one of my bucket list places to visit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely got to do it.
Absolutely.
Hey, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the scary stories of the Chateau in Normandy, France. I know that for us, it was kind of terrifying and freaky, but exciting at the same time.
Yeah, it was definitely a good one.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
So if you guys enjoyed the stories, please like and subscribe. And as always, stay ghosty, my peeps.
Are you drawn to the dark? Do you find yourself enticed in the forbidden and ominous? Join me, Steph, as I explore all things menacing and malevolent in my podcast, Sinister Story Hour. I discuss true stories of cults and crimes with the occasional urban legend. I also dedicate episodes to missing persons in the United States. And you could be the missing link to provide information and clues that will help to bring them home. Join me every week for a new story. Come on in, sit down, and get ready, because it's story time.
Thank you for listening to the Paranormal Peeps podcast. You can find us on social media at Twitter at CPR Paranormal, on Facebook at Paranormal Peeps Podcast and Cold Spot Paranormal Research. And you can find us on Instagram at coldspot_paranormal_research.